My name is Sai. Today's tutorial is about better writing of titles for stories. And on the fictional story I'm working on, for a very long time, the title of it was Treated Without Ceremony. And recently I changed it. I changed it to Lily Transdimensional. And here are some of the reasons why. Even though I really do like the title Treated Without Ceremony, it is a dissonant title. It has a, if you could think of compare the title to a musical note, it would be flat. It would be kind of, its mood would be down, bitter, that sort of thing. So, for a title, and this is the choice I made about this particular title, and my story on the front end is an adventure story, so I thought that it would be better to have a title that would promise adventure, because that is what I have to offer. I have a lot of fun writing titles. I think writing the title for your story is, if it's a non-poetic story, the title is the one part of the writing that will be most like writing poetry. That is, you are trying to pack into as few words as possible, as much as you possibly can. Try to avoid cliches anyway for all your writing, but titles, it is 3 times more important to rule out all cliches when writing a title, because that is one of the most off-putting aspects of a story. When someone, and that's the first thing they see, when someone picks up your story and reads the title, if it is cliche, most likely they aren't going to read any further. A refresher, cliche is a very effective writing device that is overused. Or it could be a catchy or effective phrase that is overused. So, as an example, in a title that is a number, and even I would avoid a title that even has numbers in it. That is cliche, because in this day and age, when numbers have been in titles, it's very effective. The audience of the last 20 years have loved a title with a number in it. 8.5, 28 days later, 1984. A lot of, in our day and age, titles that have numbers in them, the audience just eat it up. And if it hasn't become a cliche yesterday, you're in great danger of it becoming a cliche. And that's where if it looks at if someone picks up your story and the title of it is 3.5, it's going to seem like, the shadow of, before they even read the first sentence, they're going to think that it's a cheap imitation. You want the title to offer your audience something. Again, the reason I chose Lily Transdimensional is, in that title, it promises the audience this strange adventure story. And I can promise that to them because that is what I will deliver. Of course, you don't want to promise something you're not going to deliver, but I feel confident that I can go ahead and in my title promise my audience that. So, remember, when it comes to titles, originality does sell, and that's even to the mainstream audiences. When you get a title that sounds like nothing anyone has ever heard of before, when they're when they used to walk down the aisles of the DVD rental store, those, you want the titles that jump out and the titles that people see are the ones they have never heard of before. You know, think of Pulp Fiction as a title. It's original and it stands out, and it makes people want to investigate and look to see what is that. If the title is like car chases with gunfire, you know, that may not make people as curious, because they oh, okay, yeah, I'll remember, if I might go back and get that maybe later, you know.
Thank you for watching this tutorial. It's made so that more people can be told about an illustrated film. Episodes of the film are posted at solomation.com. All episodes will be free, available to watch at solomation.com.
Remember that the title of the story, it's for the audience. You want to, it is your first connection with the audience, and you want it to be for the audience. So you want to think about how the audience will respond to the title. You want it to be, it's a selling point. You want it to be catchy. And I know this sounds like, you know, like it'll degrade the art form, but you can also have a title that is a wonderful work of art, and you can still have the title be a selling point. You can still have the title be devised to catch and keep the attention of the people who you want to read your story. Okay, an approach you do not want to take. Don't try to make the title have a certain impact. Don't try to make it a scary title if you're working on a horror film. Don't, because it's not gonna, if you try to write a title to be scary, it's not gonna scare the audience necessarily. And it'll seem hollow. Or if you're trying to make a title sound romantic, it'll come off as hollow. Whereas if you try different approaches for making a title, you can end up with a title that does make people feel that feeling you want them to feel. One approach is using the premise. So you've already written at least the first draft, and you've formulated a premise for your story. And you can have a title then that plays off the premise. So again, if you're writing a romance, you can take on one of the voices of the character, and your title could be something like Whatever Happened to Love, because one of your characters is burned out on romance or something like that. So your basically you want a title that you have your story as the jar and your title as the label on the jar. So you want a title that in a sense sums up the entire story. That isn't exactly what it's doing, but it is a label for that story. So if you have a title that plays off the premise for your story, that is an effective approach, and you can end up with a title that will make people respond, thinking of it in terms of being a romantic story. So consider making a title that plays off the conclusion of the story, and without giving the conclusion away. Now let's just say that there's like Cheeto Bay, that there's going to be a nuclear attack on Cheeto Bay. And that's going to be the conclusion of the story, is the nuclear bomb landing on Cheeto Bay. I'm making it up if you don't read it. Anyway, so you could make a title like The Salvation of Cheeto Bay. And this is something, and then, you know, if you have a picture, you could show like the big mushroom cloud. So by playing off the conclusion without giving the conclusion away is one effective way of writing that label for that jar. One of the biggest dangers you're in when writing a title is it coming across as shallow or hollow. So when you're critiquing your own title, it's very important to, ask yourself, is this title really deep, or am I just putting on airs? Nabokov's book, Pale Fire, that title, Pale Fire, that title is deep. It's richness of meaning. You just listen to that title, Pale Fire, and it's not empty. So to counteract the possibility of your title being hollow or a poor imitation is take the approach of just the stripped down, basic, no nonsense, no frills title. Just have a title, you want to title it, you want to label the jar so that when people look at it, they can see what's inside of it. Take the approach, So if, it's a good starting point that you can and that can lead to titles that do have a lot of meaning to them and are mysterious and compelling. So look at the title, The Wizard of Oz. That is, you could not get more basic and straightforward. Wizard of Oz. And it's still a very original title. One of the best things you can do is write a title that you really believe in. You can just brainstorm on a title, and if it's a title that you really like a lot, that is a great sign that it is a title that will be most effective. A lot of authors, recognizing that a title deserves the craftsmanship of a poet, will go to poetical works to either borrow directly from them or just to get inspiration. So it might be helpful to look at the poetry that has lasted for decades, might give some insight. And then of course you could always take a just quote from the Bible, grapes of wrath, and get a little tape and tape it onto the front of your book.